We're at item 11. We will go to the consent agenda as soon as we complete item 11.
Mayor, I'd like to make a couple of comments based on some of the comments tonight. I'm not from here, wasn't born here. I got married to come here. I've been in this community, I've been visiting here since 1977. I've been here 45 plus years. I've actually lived in New Bern since 1980. Many of you are my friends. I've known you, I've worked with you, and I put my heart and soul into this community. I work 7 days a week. I don't play tennis, I don't play golf, I don't play cards, I work. And I work because I love this community, and I work because I have businesses. And the businesses allow me the opportunity to spend hours. I had work that applies to my business that pays me today that I couldn't do because I was answering citizens' email. I did my best. I think there was one, Mr. Vaughn, I apologize to you. I realized that I didn't return you're the only one I didn't respond to. I missed it.
I see how you are.
I know, I apologize, but I missed it. But I responded, I tried to until I came here to respond to every single phone call, text, whatever. To be accused of something that is the furthest thing from the truth. Me and my family are accused on a constant basis of having something that we took from somebody else or that somebody doesn't have. And I publicly want to say I'm tired of it. Nobody has any proof that we have done anything. Mr. Oglesby, I'm happy to meet with you in private. It's not a public forum to say something, but if you have something, proof of something that I'm doing illegally, immorally, let me know. I am happy to discuss it with you. I am happy to prove. Madam, who are sitting there, I have businesses downtown. Happy to discuss my businesses. I have no connection to the Kesslers. Never met them before they came to New Bern, and I worked with them. I have no connection. Do I have businesses downtown? Yes, I do. Have my businesses profited in downtown? Yes, they have. Why? Because I'm out there making sure that our streets are clean, that I'm working with my colleagues here, that we have a better way to do business in our downtown. But I profited, but so did Captain Ratty's, and so did MJ's, and so did Cypress Hall, and so did the Chelsea. When I first came to New Bern, 2 restaurants downtown. And thankfully, through the work of Swiss Bear under Susan Moffett-Thomas and now continued by Lynn Herrikel, we continue to build that. We continue to build shopping and opportunity that we didn't have when I first got here in 1980. There was nothing downtown. My husband bought a building. He bought the very first building that we had in 1983. He came home. I had a 6-month-old child, and I cried. I said, "Are you nuts? Downtown is dying. We don't own a home, we have no money, and you bought a building in downtown New Bern." And my friends called me and said, "Steve Engel is ridiculous to spend your money to buy a building." But he was able to figure it out. We didn't pay a mortgage, we paid a building because that was his vision for this. And we've been invested ever since. Not one piece of property we have is a detriment to this community. But yet I am maligned. And people, you don't have to say my name, I know exactly who you're talking to. To my colleague here, yes, I just want to make sure everybody knows I do own businesses in downtown. I'm not ashamed of that, but there's many people who own businesses on the other side of town that profit off of downtown. People wouldn't live in Greenbrier. We've heard people from all over our community tonight to say the reason that they live here is the beauty of what? Our downtown. Union Point and our downtown, and then they settle in Greenbrier and other places. But I will also say this, because of the work I do and continue to do, we have issues in this town, and they're located in another section of town. So I'm trying to put my energy and passions in our Choice Neighborhoods initiative, working with my colleagues here. We have stormwater issues, we have other things, and this increase in tax base may help us to get more money to do some of these things. So I do want to address that. I also want to say I thank you all for coming to the meeting. It's not that we weren't trying to be transparent, but we put out our meeting agenda the same way we have done, I don't know, the last 40 years that I've been aware of meeting agendas. And so we haven't done anything different. We didn't close it up somewhere. It is where it's at all the time. It's you that need to look at it and say, is this of interest to me? I'm glad you're here. I wish you would be here for every issue that we have, because there's some important ones that we don't see one citizen come into this space. So thank you. I thank everybody who emailed, text, called. I appreciate that they took the time to contact me. But I don't appreciate the people that are on Facebook and ever making accusations when they don't even know what's going on and don't have all the information. Lots of misinformation up there. I want you to also know that we did talk to the Kesslers about other properties. We said, you know, the Shrine. As a matter of fact, the Shrine property was the first phone call that they made. And the Shrine people said, no way, no how. So that was investigated. We also tried to arrange a conversation with the Kesslers and the Doubletree people, because they do have a hotel that's sitting there doing nothing, 71 rooms. Nothing. Couldn't get it. So again, you're right, there are other places. We are still looking at that. We are going to continue to look at that. This is part of the conversation. I feel comfortable in having a conversation. I will admit right now, I don't feel comfortable in signing a contract based on all the information I'm hearing tonight, but I feel comfortable in moving forward with the MOU to have the conversation. I just want to have the conversation. My gut tells me that at the end of the day, it's going to be very difficult to make the Union Point piece work. I just don't think it's going to happen because of what we're hearing tonight, of all the hurdles they have to jump. But you know, Mr. Kessler can go anywhere he wants, anywhere. And he doesn't have to be New Bern, he just happened upon New Bern. And this is something that many of us, I know many of you know that I was really close with Greg Smith. And Greg Smith and I would go in his back room at Mitchell Hardware, and we would dream about New Bern. And we'd sit there and just lay out this plan of, wouldn't it be great if we had this here and this on the tablets, like a hotel here or something there. And then before long, we'd whittle it down and realize that the reality was we weren't going to get any of that. And we continue to work at our businesses to make New Bern be the very best place it could be, so we can get more of what we see here tonight. People that love our community, not for the buildings, not for the green spaces. I'm sorry, it's the people. It's the people that are here that make this community so special. And I'll go with that every single time. But I don't disagree with anything I heard tonight. I've taken it all into consideration, but I still believe the right thing to do in my heart of hearts is just to listen and go forward with the discussion. When I get that contract in my hand, it's a new ball game, and then I want every one of you to look at it, read it, and if you like it, you don't like it, that's when the rubber is going to meet the road. At this point, it's just a discussion, and I apologize that I've ranted and raved for a while, but thank you all for letting me speak my mind.
Thank you. I want to say thank you to everybody as well that came out and expressed your feelings in regards to what's going on with the Kessler Group and Union Point. I did receive the emails. Fortunately, I work 9 to 5, so I didn't have time to respond. So if you're listening, I hear your outcry. There's a few things, few words that were stated that I would like to address. We talk about the TDA and Swiss Beer. We hear about the chambers and how they're for economic development. Swiss Beer is about the greater 5 Points, and we're still looking for economic development in greater 5 Point area. The chambers, in regards to going throughout the whole city of New Bern, and the minority communities, and making sure that we're talking about economic development and having meetings all day to benefit that community as well. It's ironic that a statement was made in regards to walking distance convenience, because that's the same thing that the individuals in the whole community said about Stanley White when it was moved up the street. They wanted to conveniently be there. There was another comment about let's, put it over in Trent Court. Trent Court individuals don't want waterfront property. They want to have affordable housing. and people snicker and roll their eyes when we talk about affordable housing, but we need to talk about affordable housing. We have the word community that we talk about, and being down at Union Point, fortunately, like I was in support of leaving Stanley White where it is and how that all happened, I do support that Union Point needs to stay the way that it is. However, I do agree with the other two projects because it does bring jobs, it does bring economic development to our city. I think it should be separated tonight if, you know, they move forward with it. If it's not separated, it's not something that I can support because it needs to be discussed separately. In a conversation when the city attorney talked about rebates and tax and, you know, trying to figure out how we'll make this work. There's communities that are looking to see how we can make it work in regards to affordable housing and low income and market rate housing that are still suffering from Florence. So if we can figure out how to make things work, why are we not trying to make things work in these communities so that they can live and be able to enjoy Union Point Park or go to these jobs? They're still struggling. Lastly, again, I do appreciate everyone coming out and speaking on this topic. And again, I do agree with Sabrina, you know, in regards to when the meeting information comes out on that Friday. And, you know, I've been a big proponent on transparency. And, you know, just like the attorney said, this is how it worked. When the information was brought to me in what we would call a closed session, I was in support of certain things, but still did have a question about Union Point and made the statement that there may be an uproar because there may be lack of understanding about the parcel. Again, like I said, I do support part of it. If it can be separated, I would like to support moving forward in that conversation, but if you can't, I cannot go on it tonight. And I do hope, like that gentleman said, in regards to, you know, say what you mean and mean what you do. I hope that is consistent across every project and everything that we do in the city. And lastly, I know that, Sabrina, you know, you probably get frustrated because some of us always express our frustration on the upgrade of downtown and how people say everything is about downtown, but there's a lot more to the city than just downtown. And the people that are here, please understand the cries of other communities that feel that way. They want to be upgraded. They want to be beautified. So let's figure that out as well as we say as colleagues. Let's try and work on that. That's important as well. That's all I have to say.
Other board members have comments concerning item number 11?
Mr. Outlaw, can I have a
No,
second?
sir. No, sir. You cannot. This is the debate amongst the board.
All right.
There was a request of petitions time period. It's already.
Well, I was told
Yes,
that you
No,
got
sir. No, sir. No, sir.
I just wanted to
You
know
cannot ask questions, sir.
I can't?
No, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
I too want to thank everyone for coming out this afternoon, and I have to agree with a lot of the comments that was made by Alderman Beeman and Alderman Harris, but I do want to say this much. I am in agreement with this MOU because I do support the first project with the two, with Elks Building and the Capital Swap, but I do have a problem with Union Point Park, as I also stated when we met with the Kessler group in a closed session, that I had some reservations because of the park, because of the way that our citizens would not be able to utilize that park and walk through, drive through that park, and I just felt that that was going to, overall, that was going to be a problem for our citizens, and again, I see this is a problem. I would rather want to see the first project come to fruition because I think it will bring a lot of revenue to our city, and it's going to be a benefit to our citizens. And as Alderman Harris stated, I echo her on affordable housing. Not just affordable housing, we got to come up with some way to get some developers in there for low-income housing. because we have a lot of citizens that probably know. But I do agree with the MOU, and if it's the Union Point Park section is taken a look at by the Kessler Group and moving forward, I will support it.
I do want to point out that the point of time then for public discussion was with requests and petitions of citizens. I'm sorry if you did not fill out the form.
Well, I was told I couldn't fill it out because it was after 6 when I showed up.
Well,
And
sir,
I was going to get a spot.
we have to have these filled out prior to the meeting.
Okay, so I only wanted 3 minutes because
Yes,
I
sir.
grew up in downtown
Thank you,
Denver.
sir, and that is the procedure. They need to be filled out prior to the meeting, sir. Thank you very much.
Mayor,
Yes,
just
yes, ma'am.
point out that as a board, we did take it to, afterwards in regards to that, so.
But our request for citizens ends at 6, regardless.
It does, but we also gave the public an opportunity to speak when we moved the agenda, as you just stated. You know, I'm always a proponent of allowing the people to speak because we wouldn't be here. Right.
Okay, other comments concerning, I'm going to let, yes, sir.
I'd like to thank the citizens for coming out tonight. And when you can receive information based on he say or she say and find out the facts, and I feel that the attorney and the city manager had a great opportunity to really explain everything to everyone tonight to give them an opportunity to understand, not what they heard or not what they read on the email, that what is coming and how it's going to come in the order that we have to go through ourselves before taking on a situation that we're not even sure that it's going to work ourselves. So we have to go through the process, and that's what we're doing now. And I thank you for coming out and get a chance to learn what the process is, that you see what we're doing, and thank you so very much.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, just a few comments. I want to address the one on transparency. I made a post about this discussion on Facebook, and after 401 comments, 61 shares, and Lord knows how many emails and phone calls and everything else I received, I'm not sure how much more transparent I could have been when I shared this information. Could it have been shared sooner? Maybe. I received our agenda on Friday. Yeah, maybe I could have shared it sooner. What is disheartening? I want to read something. Any Rotarians in the room by chance? Anybody a Rotary? So, yeah, I recognize a couple of you. So I was there today and had the honor to speak and address that group. And they have a 4-way test. Number 1 is it the truth? Number 2, is it fair to all concerned? Number 3, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And number 4, will it be beneficial for all concerned? And I made a comment today that I actually want to bring their banner and hang it up here, but a little too large, but it did give me a nice point. What I have experienced over the past couple of days is far from some of those beliefs. I've said, some of you have probably heard me make the comment before, that social media will be the downfall of our country. It's a two-edged sword. It can be a very useful and helpful tool, and it can also be a very damaging and hurtful tool. Fortunately, I've got thick skin. I've been in management for many, many years, so I've had people talk about me and say many things that oftentimes weren't true. But we are all humans, and human nature is you want to be liked, okay? You want people to agree with you. I learned back in, I think it was December 13th, 2013, the first night I sat here and made a decision, and when I left, I said, oh my goodness, everybody agreed with that. So I say that because it didn't take me long being up here to understand that you're not going to satisfy everybody. I get it. I understand that. I shared a story today that someone had shared with me early on, that in different situations and scenarios you have a stoplight, you have a red light. Those are people, like the gentleman there that said, we don't want your money, leave it. Okay? Those are red lights. Then you have green lights that say, this is all about good growth, good economic development, let's do it. And maybe we sacrifice something in the meantime. Then you have the yellow lights. That's the people in the middle that see a post on Nextdoor or Facebook, and they see, City of New Bern is going to sell Union Point Park tomorrow night. Make sure you're there to have your voice heard. Does anybody here, after you've sat here, and I thank you all for those that decided to stay tonight, there's a lot of people here that came and said their piece and they left, but did anybody here tonight that we're gonna sell Union Point Park?
Nope.
No,
I didn't hear that at all.
it's leaving advertising.
It's important that we communicate. I have said this 100 times, whether it is a spouse relationship, whether it's a parent-child, whether it's an employee and an employer, you have to communicate. I will make an admission tonight that I feel like this city failed to communicate this information in the right manner and the right time, okay? I think that probably a third of the people that came tonight probably would have been home eating spaghetti and maybe watching this on TV if suddenly it's back up and running. I do agree that there is some validity in talking to this developer about this project. And I will tell you that the first time this board was made aware of it, almost everybody on here gasped, oh my goodness, not Union Point Park, you can't do that. That's just off limits. Then the Kessler group came to us and presented in a closed session, and they showed us some nice pictures. Hey, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about upgrading what would remain in Union Point Park, and maybe a fountain, walking trails, brick pathways, with lights, with a stage to have performances. All these different things were discussed. We haven't heard anything about that. All I've heard about is where am I going to feed my ducks now? The Riverwalk will continue if this project will move forward. The Riverwalk should continue regardless of whether this project happens or not. But you know why it doesn't? Because it takes money. How many in the audience wants a tax increase when we do our next budget? Well, okay, somebody make sure the gentleman in the back gets an extra tax. So when we talk about having agreement on something, everybody agrees they don't want to pay more money. The way you get more money to do different projects and improve infrastructure and hire more policemen and fire stations and things of that nature is you grow your economy. You don't grow your tax rate, you grow your tax base. And I understand that pain comes when you do things like this. Before all the rigmarole, if that's even a word, that's happened over the past 2 days, I was going to make the suggestion that once the city does what we need to do in this partnership, that we take all the incremental ad valorem tax that we would raise and we give it to the redevelopment commission to fund their efforts. I sat here and I said, when they talked about the redevelopment commission, I said, you can do all you want to, but if you don't have money, you can't do anything. And they really haven't done a whole lot. We've given them property, they've moved a couple houses, but money, as Danny said, used to say, money will make the bear dance. And I think we've proven that we've done a very good job at managing the city with the money that we have. If we want things, if we want to talk about other opportunities, you've got to have more money. And everybody here, except for the one gentleman in the back, which is a very special gentleman, doesn't want their tax rate raised. At this point, my stance is, I've been in government for 8 years, over 8 years, and I've always said the most frustrating part about government is how slow things move. I got a question for staff. When did the Kessler group come and present to us in a closed session? Any ideas?
Last year, in the summer, I believe.
So September and October, so now we're 4 or 5 months down the road. I'd like to know what it would hurt by giving another 30 days to get more information to the field. There's folks that's red lights. They don't care. It doesn't matter what we tell them. We can tell them each you're going to get $5,000 from this group if they would allow and support this project. They're not going to be for it. I get it. I understand it. We're not looking for 100% compliance. But I also want to make sure that the people in the middle have an opportunity to ask those questions, get some answers, and then if you still disagree with the project, that's fine. We'll shake hands and we can agree to disagree. But the name calling, the lining the pockets, I have no idea where that comes from. I certainly haven't made any money since I've been on board 8 years. But what I would like to do is allow the public the opportunity to present their questions to the board in a formal manner. Let us try to get you some answers, and then that way, whenever we vote on the MOU, nobody can say this was ran through, I didn't know about it, I still have questions I haven't answered. I personally don't see what in the world is wrong with a 30-day delay on signing this, that's a non-binding agreement. That's my statement.
Mayor,
Yes.
I have something. It does frustrate me a little bit that every time there's a controversial situation that comes up, it's always, let's take the funds that we would get and put it to the redevelopment. If we all voted and supported for the redevelopment to be here based on the CNI, I don't understand why we're not backing the redevelopment and giving them money to be able to redevelop the community. Because if we can go to Kim, who is the finance director, she can let us know how much money we have in fund balance. So we always like to throw around the word taxpayers' dollars, but you're also throwing taxpayers' dollars around when you're using the resources of the city because we're working our employees to do the job. And if you take the money and you're giving a tax break down the road, you're still doing something with taxpayers' money. So let's stop using that as like a little cherry for someone to benefit or want to support an idea or a project. We have a redevelopment. Give them the money to redevelop and do the plans that they have to do. So it's not a do this and we'll give you this, it should work parallel. So we economically develop downtown and other parts of the city, and we also create affordable housing because that's what they're working on.
Well, thank you for that, and I think under item number 12, we will discuss in a big way how the city's probably, if that is approved, will be funded. We're still on item number 11.
Mr. Davis, question for you, what I've heard here tonight about separating the two possibilities. What does that look like? How does that impact us, not impact us?
On the legal side, you could, anyone could make a motion to approve the agreement striking the section regarding Union Point Park. If that were passed, you have a proposal now to the Kessler Group. You haven't done anything, you've simply changed.
You're going back to the drawing board.
You're going back to the drawing board, and you've taken a legal step, and you've not gone anywhere. So if that's the path that you're on, I would direct staff to reach back out to Kessler to see if that is a possibility.
Okay, so then you really wouldn't be signing an MOU. It would not be the document.
No, ma'am. That's not what the parties have been discussing. I understand the notion to change it.
Right.
I think you want to present yourself as a good partner and a communicator to the other party, that rather than take legal action and create a misperception, I would reach out to them and ask them, is that possible?
My second question, at what point can we say, this doesn't work for us? Is it, say we go forward with the MOU, and I don't know what the first step is. I don't know if it's talking to National Park, which is going to take a year or maybe 2 years. Is it, permitting? At what point, or does the MOU have a life? Does it have a 24-month span? What point can we say, see ya?
Yes, ma'am. The expectation would be to move forward in good faith soon.
It's just a good faith.
Now, to start answering these questions so that a development agreement, a contract, would follow in a matter of months, not years.
Well, but don't we have to resolve the park issue?
That would be spelled, those conditions would all be spelled out in the development agreement, if this, then that.
But what I don't understand with this is, and help me please, if the National Park, Forestry, whatever, the National Park Service has to approve an alternative site, and that process takes a year, we're saying that we're okay with exploring this opportunity so they can start making plans and preparations for this site. What if the National Park Service comes back and says, no, you don't have any ballot options? So now a whole year has been wasted on this Union Point site when there's not an option.
Yes, sir. I think what the expectation is that we, with great precision, can address the phase one, the primary projects. Recognizing that the secondary project is going to have more guidelines and standards to deal with rather than deliverables, because there are simply too many questions. But we've got to get off the mark. If the primary projects are going to go forward, we've got to find a way to address them all in some respect. Recognizing that the secondary project is not going to have a level of detail because we simply don't know.
Scott, in regards to, just for clarifications, because I've got these questions too. The Kessler Group actually purchased the Elks building, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Purchased, it's in their name.
Yes, ma'am.
So if none of this happens, they still have this Elks building.
Just like the last developer, yes, ma'am.
Correct, thank you, I just want to clarify.
Scott, let me ask you a question. If we apply to the national parks, and we have to find suitable property to replace the portion of the park, would a suitable property require to be waterfront?
Yes, sir, my expectation, and listen, we don't need to be cute about this, I think the Sudan Temple property is the target property, right? That is the most logical replacement, comparable property that I can imagine the National Park Service agreeing to. So I would expect that would be something that they would consider, and I would expect there to be a condition that we find a way to connect the two for pedestrian access between the peninsula and that Sudan parcel.
And would this be the first step for the Kessler Group and the city of New Bern is to get this permission?
No,
I
sir.
mean,
No, sir.
we really didn't need to even proceed if they couldn't get this.
Well, that's what I'm saying is, and again, this is all subject to further discussion with them, but what I'm imagining is that we would have a development agreement where we have all of the issues resolved for the primary project, Talbot's Lot and the Elks Building. We will have that locked down. We will understand what their specific ask is. We'll understand what's in it for the city, and we can understand that so that they can break ground and move forward. We don't want to wait years for those projects to start. At the same time, we can start working down the path, if we ever get there, right? If we get there, we will work down the path toward the Union Point Park parcel. And all we can do at this very first stage is identify all the steps and all the obstacles to get there, but with some parameters around that project. The parameters being, we're going to move forward with that project subject to all the approvals that are required, provided that the city's going to reserve X feet along the waterfront, that restrooms are incorporated, that public has access. All those issues would be more scoped out, but it would lack the precision because we won't know what that project looks like until years in the future. That project, understand, is going to be, if it ever happens, even if everything goes perfect, you approve it, everyone is happy, we're still talking about 4 or 5 years from now before that would ever start.
Once an agreement is signed, not necessarily.
After an
today.
agreement is signed.
Okay, not from approving an MOU.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
I would hope that if, staff goes back based on how we go here, that regardless if Union Point is on or off the table, that if they did come here and love New Bern and wanted to develop it, that 1 and 2 will move forward without having Union Point being disrupted. Because if that's the main factor, then they really want to come here and create economic development and jobs for our community.
At the end of the day, unfortunately, I just think it's a business decision. You're a business person, I think you understand. It may be that the economics need to work for all 3 or work for 1. I don't know. I will tell you that there has been, and Lynn, you can help me, I think it's been 4 offers, 4 on the Elks building, and 4 of them that fell through, and that was spending about $12 million total in that building, and nobody could sustain that. Nobody could sustain the model. They couldn't borrow the money. They couldn't do anything. And that's why that building has been like that. Everybody, 20 years that building has sat there.
Yeah, but I am familiar with a group, I'm not going to disclose that was interested in the Elks building, and they weren't getting the same incentives or possible incentives to build a building.
I understand, but they had to buy it from the owner. We didn't own it. The problem was the owner was not willing to make it work financially, and the other people that were trying to buy it had to buy at, let's say, $1 million or $1.5 million. They were not willing to take less than $2.25 million because that's what it sold for. So that was the problem. They couldn't get in the front door, and then when they went to borrow, they could not make the economics work. And these people are over $25 million. They have the money to do it do it right, and they paid the 2.25 million.
Who have been offered incentives to help the building?
We did, we never
I mean,
did.
I mean,
Nobody's ever
No,
asked us.
this talks about incentives in regards to trying to go and get grants and trying to help in regards to that building, that's what was stated. So I understand your statement, I am a businesswoman, I'm a realtor, and there's good business and there's bad business. So as a representative, I'm never gonna have a client and take them to somewhere or put them in a situation where they're gonna purchase a home and it's not good for them because they can't afford it. So I do understand the concept of business, but like I've always said on this board for the 4.5 years that I sat here, I don't care that it's election season. I'm always gonna stand on my morals and my truth. We are elected by the people, and when the people come here and speak about the concerns, because they are taxpayers, it's very important for us to listen, because we would not be in these seats if they didn't put us in office. That's our responsibility, but I also do sit up here as a citizen that does pay taxes. I own my home, and I live in the city. I shop and eat and enjoy entertainment in the city. I love Union Point Park. I go whenever there's something to do or it's feasible for me to go. But we do have a lot of hotels here. Does a hotel need to be directly over there? No, I don't believe that. So I feel like, yes, I hear what Alderman is saying about 30 days. It can, you know, if that's what we do to push it back to get an understanding, I'm still on the statement of the Elks building in Talbot, or even the Elks building should be able to move forward without us having that decision in regards to the Union Park, because if they care about the city, they're
One of our experts here in Bern, TDA, Chamber of Commerce, and that there is a need for hotel rooms. And I guarantee you that the owner of how many Grand Bohemian hotels are, 17 Grand Bohemian hotels, has investigated the need of additional hotel rooms in New Bern before he decided that he wanted to spend all this money here.
But it was also stated that there's hotels and they're half not occupied. So I would love for you guys to email me the statistics and data of the hotels, because we have, is it the fact that they're not directly in downtown? Because I live near 3 hotels.
So it ebbs and flows, because, no, it ebbs and flows. We can't attract conventions because we can't get enough rooms. To attract a 500-person convention, you need at least 200 rooms, at least. The requirement for a convention to come here is that it is within walking distance of the center. We don't have the number of rooms to meet that. Therefore, they're going to Greenville, North Carolina, Wilmington, Jacksonville, other cities that are providing this, and we're now behind. We were ahead of the mark when we built in 2000. We're behind the mark now. Is that correct, Melissa? And so the reason that they're empty, and he said they were empty, is because hotel rooms ebb and flow. During the week, you might have some business people, and then comes Thursday, you start getting what they call onesie-twosie business, right? And you get all the visitors and other people coming in, and then it fills up. So it ebbs and flows. Nobody at any time, and in any convention hotel city, I don't care, you can go across the country, is going to have 100% occupancy at all times. It's not the way it works. I think we shoot for about 80. 80 is good, 85, is that right? And so if we can have 80 to 85, that's profitable to our hoteliers. So that's what
I understand, because I've also worked in a hotel.
Right, so you do understand.
The evening part of doing the work, but my main issue, you know, or the things that I always say is that, you know, I'm all for economic development. I, you know, especially entrepreneurship. I say that, I fight for that. I don't want to use the word frustrated. It's just so concerning that we have these heavy discussions about all of this business coming in, but we don't have these deep discussions about the people that already live in this city that do not have affordable housing. That is so important to me. This is a form of housing because it's a hotel. I'm not against hotels being here. I'm against the fact that we can never find time to have conversations about the people that are suffering. Why don't we care, or why don't we have an understanding for the individuals that live in the city that don't have good housing? I mean, can we make a motion to table this or give the staff 30 days to get back with the Kessler group to see, where they stand? Or I would like to make a motion that we move forward with approving the MOU, removing the Union Point part out of the conversation.
Let me make sure I understood your motion. Your motion is to remove item 3.
No, yes, item 3 from
You
the
also
MOU.
want the 30 days.
No, I'm asking 2 options. I don't know what everybody is wanting to do.
And excuse me, Mayor, but before you, Alderman Harris and Mayor make the decision, is there any other discussion about this board on this subject before y'all make this? motion?
That's what I was asking. Do we want to table it and have the staff move forward? Because we're just going to continue to talk about the same thing. And I
That's
know.
what I'm asking, is there any other discussion?
Well, I do want to ask the attorney, okay, move forward. What would be the difference in approving a memorandum of understanding tonight and the due diligence on the part of the city with the questions, concerns of the public, and the discussions with the developer that they, for termination purposes, if we do not like the response of the developer to the questions, what is the difference in that and wait 30 days, that in that 30-day period, are the developers going to come over here on the fence whether or not we're going to do an MOU? Are they going to be as due diligent in preparing information to answer these questions? Could we not, with the MOU approval, if we don't like the questions that the developer is asking, could we terminate our relationship? So I need some clarification on that, because I'm hearing quite a few things here.
Yes, sir. If you were to move forward with the MOU tonight, and tomorrow started a robust discussion with the developer, asking all the questions that concern you, and you were dissatisfied with any vision or any issue, then you can back out the next day if you don't like it.
So, from a legal perspective, to try to get the concerns of the public answered legally, is it better to do an MOU and start the normal process that we are way ahead of the curve of providing transparency versus just going through a public hearing, which some cities do? We are trying to get the answers to the questions that concern the public and that enlighten the board. Or do we wait 30 days? What's going to happen in 30 days? Somebody in this, 7 people on this board are going to have to leave this city tonight or wait 30 days. And an MOU tonight can be terminated next meeting, 3 weeks from now, 2 months from now, if we do not like the answers that the public has asked that we're getting back from the developer. I have questions from tonight. I will want answers. So are we going to leave the city tonight? If the decision is no, that will not be the first no decision that in my years on this board. If it's yes, we will proceed forward and we will find these answers. And we will decide we do not want to get married as has been taught tonight. We do not want to continue. Or we would. But in answer to the affordable housing, I'm sitting on the corner. I knew what was coming down several years ago. I was asked to go to mail the bill plan. I think I knew what was going to happen out there. And I was standing on the corner, and you got to be pretty quick on your feet if you're the mayor. And the chagrin and the disappointment of mail closing, I was asked this question by a news reporter. Well, what are you going to do now? And I said, I'm going to try to go out and find 115 jobs to replace the ones we just lost. Well, I think, Mr. Davis, we did something similar to this. We had an MOU, and 23 parcels of property were assembled, and the city participated. And we could have terminated that MOU if we wanted, but no. with Owen's leadership primarily, the Harris Teeter $40 million investment happened. But it started with an MOU that could have been terminated at any time if we couldn't work with the DOT, if we couldn't work with the zoning, if they couldn't acquire parcels. But the journey started with an MOU that could have ended. We had to discuss choice as to if it was going to be Duke Energy or City of New Bern. We voluntarily kind of backed out because it was going to kill the deal. If the geographic choice of Duke or, so we had to give and take there, see. Then we had to go to DOT and work out some entrances, egresses that were safe. We had to put a stoplight in. It started with an MOU. That didn't mean that the Harris Teeter Center, the largest Harris Teeter in the world, was going to come and happen there. It started the process. I'm trying to start the process tonight, and I might be a part of ending that process. Next meeting, 3 months from now, if I don't like the answers that you have asked, that Kessler is going to have to answer.
City Attorney. So the best move for us tonight is to go forward with the MOU that we still be in the driver's seat to make that final decision, that we don't run away.
Sir, yes, sir. The political question is yours to move forward or not. The legal question is if you are not happy in the days that follow, you can put a stop to the process. Right? This does not obligate you to do anything other than keep talking in good faith. If you are all red lights tonight, spare me the misery, please. Right?
I want you to know I know nothing about the sensitivity of the environmental issues. I can tell you, I have gotten permits before. The first question you ask when you go to get a waterfront permit, is it the 30-foot or the 75-foot rule? I would think it's probably, I don't know, but you get the man out there. When you get a man out there, you ask him if you can take this stump out, if you can put a bulkhead here, if you can backfill here. I've done that before. And on one of those occasions, it happened to be my own house, a stump in my backyard, and I couldn't put a boathouse, I couldn't move the stump. I said, how many agencies, technically, between the building permit office out here, the state and the national and the clean water, how many agencies are there out there? You know how many there are? There's 27 of them. So I can assure you, there are a lot of hoops to go through. And guess what? When they get through them hoops, they got to go through the HBC. Does anybody ever remember the term mass? The Crest building, the garden, the delay, the process. Does anybody remember the monolithic overmass, lack of mass on Crest? Too much mass when the Tulsa group wanted to do the towers. These are not easy. They all start with somebody interested in investing money in your neighborhood. They don't start the process of going down to their bank and saying, can I have some money? I want to go to this little town named New Bern. That's the utopia of North Carolina, not the Southeast. They don't go down there and say, the first question the banker says, well, what's your relationship with the city? Well, we don't have one. What do you mean you don't have one? Well, we had to wait 30 days to see. They decided not to provide leadership and move forward. But you won't start the process of borrowing money. And your city down there doesn't even want to give you an MOU. Come back and see us when you guys have affairs involved. They might go down there and say, the appraisal doesn't work out, the sensitivity of the environmental concerns don't work out, the amount of setback because it's a 75-foot, not a 30-foot rule. We don't know all this. I don't begin to know it. I can tell you there's a lot of hoops to go through. Start a process. If something doesn't work out, if we don't get the answers we want, we're going to get you the answers. If they are not the right answers, we can null and void that MOU.
If we know and void the MOU, can we do it just for the Union Point?
If they agree. Right? We can't force anyone to do anything. We can't force the city to do anything, and we obviously can't force them to do anything. We've got to have a meeting of the minds.
The term of leadership, it's not a lack of leadership if you decide to wait 30 days, because what's the sense of approving an MOU and not just having this conversation? I mean, they're business people. Why can't you have a conversation and get your questions answered before you sign an MOU? That's not a lack of leadership.
That's a part of the process.
Architects, engineers.
The MOU for to answer the questions of what the citizens ask.
Well, the first thing they'll do is get a little watch and get a clean, they'll meet with clean water first. And if they get a no, then that's it right there. I mean, because there are a lot of sensitivity issues with that being on that waterfront right there.
Feel the need
It's
to do due diligence, and I can't, again, I can't do due diligence. Again, I have heartburn, especially after hearing a lot of people today in the past couple of days, I have heartburn about the Union Point site. But I don't want to miss something that I might have missed or not known about, or otherwise with all of the projects combining without doing my due diligence. And if the MOU doesn't bind me and allows me to do due diligence, we all buy real estate, you know that. You have a due diligence period, you sign basically an MOU, which gives you
the contract.
well, but will let you have out. I just feel that I would be, I would not be doing my job if I didn't listen to all sides, to this side, to that side, do my due diligence. And like I said, in 30 days, we could come back and say, no go. We're not any different than what we would, but I feel that I'm ready to move forward. I want to do the due diligence. I want to hear what they have to say, and we can back. As long as I know that we can back out at any time and we can walk away from this, I'm okay.
Part of that, first thing they're gonna do is get soil tests. We all know what that used to be, don't we?
You're talking about the Union Point.
Yes.
That's exactly.
They're gonna get a soil test.
But the people are saying they don't want that to happen, so why can't you move forward with the Kessler group on
The
part
Kessler
one and
group,
part two? Because that is what you're saying,
Yeah.
and what it sounds like to me is like one of the gentlemen says, is that if Union Point Park is not part of the deal, everything is off the table. And that's how we sound when we say to do our due diligence. Why does Union Point have to be part of this conversation? Why can't we talk about 1 and 2?
okay, well, the problem with that is that they are not going to spend money on architects and engineers and unless they know that the city is committed to their investments here in Bern.
We are committed to their investments because we're going to work out incentives for 1 and 2. We're not committed, or some of us are not committed to disrupting Union Point Park. I don't understand that. So, given the 30 days to ask that simple question of if Union Point is off the table and whatever legal jargon you would like to say, are you still wanting to move forward with 1 and 2? If the answer is no, then they never wanted to invest in the city without disrupting Union Point.
That's why we do the MOU.
Or you ask the question, if Union Point is not on the table, do you still want to move forward with 1 and 2? That's a simple question.
I don't hear any answer to that question.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I want to hear an answer to that. That was my question.
This is the elected officials' discussion.
I understand, but answer.
Sir, we didn't, point of order, this is the
I feel we need to move forward with the MOU, and therefore, during the conversation, we can decide what we're gonna do. Therefore, we get all the answers that we're looking for to go ahead and move forward. We don't know if this opportunity is gonna come about again, okay? So we need to move from there. We're the ones is to make a decision, and that's what we have to do. You have, sometimes it's hard, but you got to make the call.
So make the motion.
I make a motion that we move forward to the MOU. That's my motion.
And I'll second it, Jonathan.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Does everybody understand the motion?
Is that enough for you, Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Davis?
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Clerk, would you, call the roll starting on the bill?
Alderman Bingle,
Yes.
Alderwoman Harris,
No.
Alderman Astor,
No.
Mayor Outlaw,
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Alderman Best,
Yes.
Alderman Odom.
No.
Okay, so would you give the total?
Yes, 4-3.
Okay. Let's go to the consent agenda.
Can I make another motion or a suggestion?
Well, yes, if you want to stay on item 11, we'll do that.
Yes, I would like to make a suggestion that the staff go back and talk to the Kessler group about the question in regards to the projects 1 and 2 without being a point in receiving any of that.